Hello, college sports fans. Welcome to the inaugural show of College Sports Corner, where we're going to talk about all college sports. We're going to talk about games. We're going to go through headlines. We're going to review games, preview games. Uh, Granted, let's face it, most of the talk in the world is about football, basketball, baseball, softball. But if your university, your team has a big soccer match, lacrosse, wrestling, gymnastics, swimming, whatever, put in the comments down there and let people know about it, what's going on, and where they can see that game, sport, match, whatever it. So anyway, glad you could join us to get started some headlines. Unfortunately, the big headline is still COVID. But the good news is on the sports front of it, it does look a little better. Looks like we're going to have full capacity at games. Don't know how long that's going to last. Hopefully, they can get this thing under control, and then we can get rid of it and have full capacity all year. Last year, it was a little weird seeing games and stadiums with not very many people in them. I mean, some of these 90, 100,000 seat stadiums were only like a quarter full. Looked like 3 hours before kickoff instead of at game time. But hey, at least we got some football. We got back to a little bit of normal things in our life. So let's just hope that we can keep full capacity and really enjoy the whole atmosphere of a game. I know last year there's some questions about a few games about maybe they had more fans than they should have. I don't know. I remember there's a big talk. I think it's a Georgia Notre Dame game that maybe there are more fans there that should have been. I wasn't there. I don't know. But anyway, things look better now than they did a year ago. I think it was a year ago the Big Ten and Pac-12 had already canceled their seasons. All the other conferences were already talking about they were going to play. FCS said they were moving theirs to the spring. So we are a lot better shape sports-wise for now. Hopefully that will last and we can have full capacity this year. All right, another big thing is this summer was name, imaging, licensing, NIL, what they call it. I've been always about players should get paid some money. These sports make big money for these teams, for these universities. Some more than others, millions of dollars down to probably, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the smaller sports. But these athletes should get something. They should get some money for spending and just go out having fun being a young person. However, this whole NIL thing has got me worried. It may cause some problems, especially in the locker room. I think they say only one or two players from each team maybe will benefit from this. But what about all these other players on the team that work just as hard as those one or two players, but they're not getting noticed for anything? What happens when that kid who's getting noticed and getting paid for NIL drives up in practice in his brand new Corvette? Or he comes in with, hey, look what I bought, check out these clothes and all this stuff. How's that going to make the other players feel? Is there going to be jealousy? Is there going to be resentment? I mean, let's face it, we're all human. Throughout our lives, we all have bouts of jealousy and resentment towards other people. But will that cause problems in the locker room between players? Will that cause a rift between teammates? Let's hope not. These coaches, they're going to really need to get a handle on this and get this thing under control if things go crazy like that. Yeah, it could cause problems. Hopefully not, but we'll see what's going to happen there in the future with that. Another big story over the summer is playoff expansion. I'm old school. I come from the days of when the AP and UPI used to vote for number one. And for all you younger people out there who may not realize this, some of you may, Associated Press and the United Press International used to vote who was the top team in college football at the end of the year. And it didn't matter if they weren't playing in the same bowl game. You could have one team playing in the Rose Bowl ranked number one and the number two team in the country playing all the way in the Orange Bowl ranked number two. Well, if they both won those games, the AP and UPI used to have to vote who would be number one, who would be the national champion. Some years it worked. Some years there was controversy. Some years there were split championships between two teams. And finally they came up with what was it called? Bowl Alliance or something like that. And they had another one where they tried to match up the top two teams for a true national champion. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Again, then they came with the BCS Bowl Championship Series. Some people say that was a little bit better. Some people say it wasn't. That had a lot of controversy too. But they did pretty much match up number one versus number two. Now, some years there were teams left out. Teams had arguments. People had arguments all about it. Sometimes there's more than one team left out. I think there's one year where there's four or five teams that were great. Three of them were undefeated, I think. The other two only have one loss. Everybody's like, well, why aren't they in there and all this stuff? So even though the BCS was better than voting for national champion, it still had a lot of controversy. And that went on for a few years. And then finally, lo and behold, they announced we're going to have a playoff system. It's about damn time. Well, when it first came out, they said 4 teams. I said, okay, I'd like to see more, but this is a start. This is a lot better than what we've had in the last few years, or several years, a couple of decades, whatever. It's a start. I personally thought that over the next few years, they would eventually expand this thing out. But here we are several years later, and we still have 4 teams in it. And now, of course, that's causing arguments about who should be the 4 teams and all that kind of good stuff. But here's the thing. Why don't they expand the thing out? I figure by now it would have been out to 8 teams by now. Maybe even a few more. Back in the media days last month, Mike Leach said something that when I first heard it, I was like, what? Man, that guy's nuts. He's talking crazy again. He said, we need a 64-team playoff. Well, like I said, when I first heard that, I was like, what? But then I got to thinking about it. I'm going to let you all in on a little secret. Some of you may not know this, but there were actually 130 FBS teams. That's right, 130. All those 130 schools have all met their requirements to be ranked FBS. So, why are only 65 or so, and then a few others, if they do good, included in this playoff system? I think it's BS. What they need to do is expand this playoff thing out. Maybe not the 64 like Mike Leach was talking about, but at least 32. Take conference champions of all the conferences and play them off. Add some more teams in there, 2, 3 from each conference that are really good. Throw them in there so we can have a good playoff system. Now, of course, just like anything, there's going to be blowouts. The number 1 team playing the number 32 team, and on in, there's probably going to be blowouts, yes. But there's probably also going to be some surprises and upsets. Remember Michigan and Appalachian State several years back? Remember years ago, Virginia Tech and Temple? Remember that one? Yeah. So there's probably going to be some surprises. But they really need to expand this thing out. And you know what? I think the reason why they don't do this is because, now bear with me, I think some of these Power 5 schools might be scared to do it. Because let's say everybody's eligible to get into a playoff system, okay? Now, let's say the number 1 quarterback is Joe Smith in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Number 1 quarterback coming out of high school. Well, now maybe that everybody's included, maybe Joe Smith doesn't go to Michigan, doesn't go to Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, whatever big team. Maybe he stays there close to Albuquerque, so it's easier for his family and friends to come see him play. Or maybe he stays in that general area. Now these big schools have missed out on that number 1 quarterback there. And if that keeps happening, maybe some of these teams in the upper tier of the conference, all the way down to whatever, cellar dwellers, they don't get these big players anymore. They don't get these, 4 or 5 star recruits anymore. Well, maybe they're not as good as they used to be. I think that's what scares these Power 5 schools and why they don't want to expand this thing and include people. I mean, they include people in it. They always say the group of 5, you have outstanding record and all that, you can get in. Yeah, they get into the New Year's bowl games and stuff like that. But they won't get into the playoff. So they need to expand this thing out, give everybody a shot. Everybody deserves to be in it. Like I said, all 130 teams are FBS. They met the requirements to be in the FBS school. They should be included too. Now, here's another thing. I've also heard excuses from presidents and ADs. I think I've heard something about academically it wouldn't work and all that. BS. The FCS does a 2014 playoff every year, and it works just fine. Division II, Division III football, they do a playoff system with more than 4 teams, and it works just fine. So quit giving us all that garbage. And we're getting ripped off as college football fans too. Go back and look at the polls. Just do 1 through 16 the day after Championship Saturday and go back several years. Look at all those great matchups we could have had, but no, they don't want to do it. And so we as college football fans get ripped off. I mean, go back and look at those polls and look at some of those matchups we would have had. That thing would have been great. All right, another big story over the summer. It actually started a few years back and kind of dwindled out a little bit, but now fired back up is conference realignment. Here we go again. When does it stop? Why aren't teams happy in their conference? I can understand a group of 5 team wanting to join the Power 5 team, but if you're in a Power 5 conference and you're dominating it, why do you want to leave? Especially go to a tough conference like OU, Texas going to the SEC. I don't get that. Now, here's the thing also. Here's another question. Apparently, all the teams in the SEC voted till that OU and Texas in. Hey, great. You got a unanimous vote. But wouldn't you say that half of those teams, or maybe even more than half, are voting themselves for another loss every year? Because if you think about it, who outside of Bama can beat OU? All right? Let's break this down. Maybe Georgia, because they're looking pretty good. Maybe, I don't know, Florida, maybe they might have some luck go their way during that game and beat them. Maybe A&M, hopefully. Maybe LSU, I think they'll be back this year, but who outside of Bama for sure can beat OU? Oh, and don't forget about Texas, because now if they're joining the SEC, they are going to get better. And they got Steve Sarkisian now. He's a proven coach. I mean, we'll see what happens. But basically, these teams are voting themselves another loss. I don't get that. Why they would vote for that? It's. I'm sure money's behind it. Money's behind everything that's crazy in this world. But anyway, we'll see what happens there in a few years when those two get up and join. Another big story a couple weeks ago. Bobby Bowden passes away. Love him or hate him, he was a great guy and a great coach. Boy, his teams had some epic battles there with Miami and Florida especially. I remember, like I said, I'm old school. 1999 Florida State Georgia Tech game when Joe Hamilton was the quarterback for Georgia Tech. Boy, that game was back and forth all night long. It was great. I think FSU only won by a touchdown. That's probably one of the best football games I've ever seen. I mean, it was just back and forth. Got stats here. 377 wins, 12 ACC titles, 2 national championship games. Played for 5 of them. Probably should have won 1 or 2 more, but sometimes that's the way the ball bounces. So prayers to Bobby Bowden's family, his former players and coaches. He was a great guy. Okay, coaching news. We got new coaches all around, and we got coaches on the hot seat all around. So, new coaches. I got a list here. Gus Malzahn, Auburn gets rid of him. He goes to UCF. It's going to be interesting to see if he can carry on Central Florida's winning ways that they've had the last, several years now. They've been a pretty good team. I mentioned Steve Sarkisian going to Texas. This is going to be an interesting one to watch. I've been a Washington fan since I was a kid. And when he came to Washington, Washington was kind of in a downhill slide. Some of the coaches they had didn't do very well. And the years he was there, he improved that team. He got 1 to 2 new wins every season. So I was happy that he was there. And then he took off to USC. And, that's that. It didn't work out there for him for whatever reason. Auburn, Byron Harris from Boise State. That's going to be an interesting one to watch, too. Seems like some of these coaches from Boise, when they go to their places, they seem to have success. So we'll see how much success he has there. Kansas, Lance Leopold. Kansas fans, I don't know what's going on with y'all's football team. Uh, Last time it was really good was when Mark Mangino was there, and ever since then I don't know, they just can't duplicate that success that the basketball team has. I don't know why. Maybe some of you Kansas fans can drop in the comments why Kansas football just doesn't seem to match up to, I don't know. Let us know. Inform us. Here's another interesting one I want to see. Brett Bielema goes to Illinois. Man, he had great success there at Wisconsin. Why he left, I don't know. He seemed to have it good there. Went to Arkansas. And I really thought he was going to do great in Arkansas, but it just didn't seem to work out there very good. And I think he did a stint in the NFL. Now he's back in the Big Ten at Illinois. That's going to be interesting to see if he can get Illinois to some winning ways, above 500, top of the conference. Don't know if it'll happen, but hey, he's a damn good coach. It could happen very easily for them. Boise, Andy Avalar? Is that how you say it? See if he can continue Boise's winning ways. Utah State got Blake Anderson. Arkansas State got Butch Jones. Is that the old Butch Jones that was, where was he at? Miami or North Carolina years back? I wonder if that's the same one. South Carolina, Shane Beamer. Frank Beamer's son. Yeah, I want to watch this because I was always a Frank Beamer fan when he was at Virginia Tech. So it's going to be interesting to see if his son can have success there at South Carolina. They need it. Another one that needs at Vanderbilt got Clark Lee. Yeah, you Vandy fans, hope this guy can do it for y'all. I mean, y'all got an excellent baseball team, that's for sure. So at least hopefully the football team can get back up there. Marshall got Charles Huff. South Alabama got Kane Womack. Arizona got Jed Fish. That didn't work out there with Kevin Sumlin, and as you can tell, I'm an A&M fan, and we had Kevin Sumlin for a while, and he was good for a couple of years, but then it just kind of faded off. Southern Miss got Will Hall. Hey, here's another one I want to see. Josh Heupel goes to Tennessee. I remember Josh Heupel back from his playing days at Oklahoma, won national championship, got into coaching. It's going to be interesting to see if he can turn Tennessee around, because Tennessee really needs to get back on the ball. It's like ever since they fired Philip Fulmer, they've just taken a downhill slide. I mean, they've had, some bright moments in that time, but they really need to get back to where they were when they were competing there in the SEC East. Louisiana Monroe, Terry Bowden, got late coach's son. He's proven himself before. He went undefeated at Auburn years ago, and he's kind of been bouncing around. And Buffalo at Maurice Lindquist. Okay, going back to Tennessee and Texas. It seems like after Texas got rid of Mac Brown, kind of went downhill a little bit. They've had some good moments. And same thing with Tennessee. It's going to be good to see if Heupel and Sarkisian can get these once good programs back to where they were. That's going to be interesting to see. All right, here we go. Last list. Coaches on the hot seat. This is not my list. So before you comment that I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing, and go to hell and all that stuff, this is not my list. This is just what I've seen and read. So, first of all, Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I like Jim Harbaugh. His interviews are great. Sometimes his sideline antics are just entertaining. I really thought he could have had this Michigan team in a better position than they have been the last few years. Good luck to him. Hopefully it works out. Like I said, college sports is better with this guy in it. Clay Helton at USC. Yeah, they've kind of been middle of the road since he's been there, and they're looking to get back to those good old Pete Carroll days, and even before, John McKay and all them guys back then. Jeff Brom at Purdue. Just seems like yesterday he beat Ohio State, but I guess he's only been middle of the road or whatever you want to call it. Dino Barber at Syracuse. It's been a while since Syracuse has had any good success. This one surprises me because I live outside the Houston area. Dana Holgerson came to U of H a few years ago. He's a good, decent coach over there at West Virginia. I figured he would come here and really, get this U of H program going and winning big time. Just doesn't seem to have happened. Why? I don't know. It's crazy world of sports. Justin Fuente, Virginia Tech. like I said, I was a Virginia Tech fan. Frank Beamer retired. Justin Fuente came in and said, okay, good. Maybe they can keep the winning ways up. Just really hasn't worked out like it should. And then Bud Foster, he retired, 2 years ago, I think, from defense. And it just hasn't really worked out for Justin Fuente there. I mean, they've had success, but here's another one. Scott Frost at Nebraska. When he came back to Nebraska, I thought, okay, this guy is going to get them back or close to where they were, years ago when they were. Some of you old schoolers like me remember when Nebraska used to whip people 70-0, and it was a weekly occurrence. I really thought Scott Frost was a good fit here, and that he was going to come back and really resurrect this Nebraska program. Hasn't happened is kind of nice words. It's just kind of, I hate to say this, it's kind of been a whole train wreck there. But I really hope he gets this thing turned around. I like the guy. He's a nice guy. Now, here's the interesting thing. Another former player, Trev Alberts, comes back, and he's the AD now. Does he give Scott Frost more time? That's only going. We're just going to have to wait around and see what happens with that. But hopefully Scott Frost can get that thing turned around this year. Randy Edsall back at UConn for a second stint. It hasn't been as successful as his first stint there. Again, who knows what's going on over there. And then this last guy, they're saying Herm Edwards at Arizona State. His when he first came there, I was like, really? Herm Edwards? All right, well, maybe it'll work out. And it has. I mean, they're above 500. I think they went eight wins one year and 7 wins last year, or the year before, and then last year was, of course, a disaster for pretty much everybody because people missing games and missing players because of COVID. So they didn't really do that well last year. So I'm kind of surprised to hear about this one. I figured, okay, this whole thing last year, to me, nothing should be counted against anybody because you had players out, you had games missed, games canceled, coaches were out with COVID. So for people to be on the hot seat because of a record last year, I don't agree with that. I mean, you had great teams that were down. Wisconsin was down. Penn State was down. LSU was down. I really believe that those teams will be back to where they were this year. But this whole COVID thing really screwed things up. But Herm Edwards, I don't really agree with that one. I'd say after this year, if they don't do all that well, then, hey, it is what it is. And then again, hey, you guys know there's no more patience in college football. If you're not winning a championship or competing for one in at least 2 to 3 years, you're out, which is stupid because there's been plenty of coaches over history who were there for years before they finally started being competitive for national championships, and they got those schools one. I think Tom Osborne was at Nebraska for, 15, 20 years, and he finally won a national championship. So it's crazy. There's no patience anymore. Everybody wants to win it, and they all want to win it now. That's just the way the world is. So anyway. Okay, anyway, that's it for today's show. I want to thank you for watching. Hey, tell your friends, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. We're going to be doing this all year long, all through football season, basketball season, baseball, softball season, and in the next summer with media days and all that stuff. So it'll be cool. We're going to start conference overviews this Friday. We're going to go in alphabetical order. Like I said before, on this channel, we talk about everybody. Not everybody went to a Power 5 school only. There's plenty of you out there we know that went to San Jose State, Rice, Akron, South Alabama, Tulsa. So we know you guys care as much about your team and your school as people that did that went to Power 5. All right? So this Friday, we're going to start with the AAC, the ACC, and the Big Ten. We're going to go over them. We're going to do things a little bit different. I think everybody knows who everybody plays in the conference. So we're just going to go over the non-conference games because there's some pretty intriguing non-conference games this year. It's going to be pretty interesting. Quick thing, we're going to do shows starting next week. Shows are going to be Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesdays, we'll go through headlines. We'll go through a review of the past Saturday, what happened. We'll go through any movement in the polls. People may say why on Tuesday. Sunday, people are watching NFL all day. Monday, you got Monday Night Football. Plus, I work on Monday. I'm a medic, so I do 24-hour shifts. So I'll be doing the show on Tuesday to review everything. Fridays, what we'll do is we will review what happened Thursday night before. We'll go over the games Friday nights if there are any, and we'll go over games for Saturday and any news or headlines or anything like that. So, hey, yeah, if you like what you see or you want to keep up with it, what's going on throughout the whole sports year in college, click the subscribe button, tell your friends, drop comments down there. Hey, this is college sports. If you want to throw jabs at your, your rival down there, go ahead. Just keep it nice and stuff. I mean, don't cuss people out and be rude. If you want to throw them, hey, your team sucks. That's fine, but keep it loose, keep it civil. Come on. Anyway, yeah, hope to see you back here Friday. Thanks for joining us. Hey, take care and be safe, and we'll see you later.